Hey guys, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Andre Seegers, and this time we're joined by Derek Binner and Ash Paulson to discuss our personal favorite games of 2015. So, let's get started. Alright guys, it's the end of the year, you know what that means, it's time to discuss our games of the year. Now, unlike most sites, we're not doing an overall GameXplain game of the year, but I think it's kind of silly when you have a small staff, as well as the fact we've all played different games with probably very little overlap, or not much overlap. So yeah, we're gonna give our, we're each gonna give our top 3, and we're actually gonna go around, building up to number 1. So, who wants to start off here? Who wants to list their third favorite game of the year first?
I think I should go first.
Yeah, I guess I can go first. Alright, so my third favorite game of the year is Yoshi's Woolly World.
Oh, wow. Man.
Yeah, and I already know that that Andre's shaking his head in contempt.
I know I'm in the minority on this, but that is nowhere near my top 3.
Right, no, I figured that. But you know, no, I just love this game from the moment I started playing it. The art direction is fantastic. It's a beautiful game. The level design is really great. I feel like it's easily the best Yoshi game since the original Yoshi's Island, which I know isn't saying much, but I would actually venture to say that it is almost comparable to Yoshi's Island in quality. I think the soundtrack's fantastic. The reason that it is at number 3 is because I do think the boss fights are kind of a low point. They're very derivative, they're kind of repetitive, and they're just not all that memorable. So the boss fights are definitely a low point, but on the whole, the experience is really just fantastic, and it's one of the best platformers I've played this year, and I had a great time with it.
I can't deny, like, I really enjoyed Yoshi's Woolly World as well. It wasn't quite big enough for me to, like, put it in my top 3, obviously, but I still really enjoyed what I played of it, and some of those levels were just brilliant in their construction. Like, I think you had the exact same reaction I did, Ash, when we first got to that special stage 1.
Yeah.
Like, between the music, the concept of the level, just, there was something really magical about that stage. It just pulled you in, and a couple of the others were really cool too. And there was a great sense of challenge. A lot of people were worried that this game was going to be really easy, especially after Kirby's Epic Yarn. And that's not the case. Yoshi's Woolly World does have a challenge, but you can actually negate that challenge somewhat because of the badges. And you can really decide, like, how much of a exercise you want this to be. And I really like that aspect of it. It's really creative, and I do think the level design sort of drops off in quality a little bit towards the end, but nothing too major. I still think that the addition of a Velcro stage was brilliant, that I didn't even think of, and a great way to play off those sort of sticky levels that you come across in platformers.
You know what game did sticky surfaces better? Donkey Kong Country 2 with the beehives.
I mean, that's a great game, but we're not really comparing this to DKC2.
Oh,
Most games can't stack up to DKC2.
Well, that's true.
But I will say, like, touching on that, though, like how a Velcro level was really a great idea, and I agree. Like, whereas Kirby's Epic Yarn felt like a standard platformer that looked like, you know, it was made out of yarn, this game actually feels like it's made out of yarn, which I think is an important distinction. Like, it really, they took the yarn theme, you know, and really went whole hog with it. Whereas in Epic Yarn, it really did just feel like it was skin deep. And I really like that about it. Like, I love how, like, instead of eggs, they're yarn balls. And, you know, when Yoshi unwraps presents, he does it by, you know, unwrapping them with his tongue, and the yarn comes out, you know, thread by thread. I love that. Like, it's just such a it's such a fun visual design.
So I actually don't really disagree with that. I actually think it does a much better job than Kirby's Epic Yarn did at being both a Yoshi game, as well as just a, you know, as well as merging those Yoshi mechanics with the yarn mechanics. Whereas, you know, Kirby's Epic Yarn didn't really feel much like a Kirby game, and didn't really do a ton with the idea of it being yarn either. It looked awesome, don't get me wrong, but I think Yoshi does a better job with all that. With that said, I personally find the level design to be that great. I thought it started off better than it ended, as you guys mentioned, but I feel like it dropped off more of a cliff than you guys seem to think it did. And I'm always reminded that one freaking stage.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up that one stage, that sort of tower stage. That is the worst level in the game by far.
Which stage is that? What are you talking about?
Where you're going in and out. You're going in and out of doors, I think, and...
Oh, you mean, it said the end of World 5, right, I think?
Yeah, and you have these platforms that move along, and it's really maze-like, and there's all these different
I didn't think it was that
ways.
bad. I actually kind of enjoyed that level. Like, I mean, it was a little confusing, but I didn't think it never annoyed me.
Yeah, definitely. That stage definitely annoyed me. It just felt out of place with me compared to the rest of the game. It didn't feel like it really felt in. Felt.
Wow. I will say that I do agree with you, though, that Derek, in World 6, the quality does drop off just slightly, but I still think it's, on the whole, pretty fantastic.
Same about the final boss. That's
the final boss fight's pretty disappointing.
Yeah, that wasn't a very great way to end, especially after the boss fight in the original, which I actually quite liked in Yoshi's Island. Like, I thought that was super inventive at the time. So
yeah.
All right, well, I think we talked. That's enough about Yoshi, unless it's also Derek's third. So, what's your third place, Derek?
My third is going to get you guys a little surprised, I think, because it is not Nintendo. It is a game called Until Dawn, which I didn't even have on my radar at all, except everybody started talking about it when it first came out. And I really struggled with whether I should put this at my number 3 or a couple of other games that I'll mention after we give our number 1s as sort of like honorable mentions. I struggled with whether or not I wanted to put this at number 3 or not. And I ultimately ended up deciding to do that because of the experience it gave me. And if you guys don't know about this game at all, it's basically like Heavy Rain if it was structured more like a horror movie or a slasher movie, and getting those horror tropes in. And you had like all these characters, and based on your choices, changes to the story could happen. All your characters could survive, none of your characters could survive. It's really up to the player's decisions. And I don't know if I would be as enamored with this game if I had played it on my own, but because of the experience I had by playing it with all my friends when I was on vacation, we were all crowded around the TV, they were shouting suggestions as each choice came up, and I chose based on that selection. So there was this really this great sense of camaraderie, and like almost like we were all watching a movie together and trying to determine, and like, you know how you watch a horror movie, it's like, don't go that way, you'll survive, or stuff like that. The game really captures that, and I can't help but really enjoy it because of that experience. And I highly recommend, in a social setting, playing Until Dawn and sort of experiencing it in that way.
Wait, I'm confused. You mean play Until Dawn, or do you mean playing the game itself Until Dawn?
Both happened with my group.
Playing Until Dawn.
Yeah, we actually started at like 11 o'clock, and we didn't finish until like 5 in the morning because we just plowed through the entire game in one sitting. And it was kind of crazy. It was really that addictive. I love experiences like that when you can just sort of join up together, and it is just sort of like watching a horror movie with friends and shouting at the TV.
Oh, that's cool. So, I might have to check it out now.
Yeah, I've actually heard a lot about it, and I checked it out on YouTube, and one of the things that really surprised me about it was how shockingly violent it is. Like, it is incredibly gory, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but it really just surprised me in terms of its shock value.
We were actually starting to laugh a bit because they sort of structured each chapter like it was a TV episode, so you'd have a slight recap of what happened before.
Oh, okay.
And it starts out with these 2 girls dying, and the like first 5 chapters or so of this game keep showing the girls breaking their necks. Like last time on Until Dawn, snap, snap, snap. It was just like, holy crap. But yeah, it's you know, you can poke holes in the plot or anything like that, and there's definitely issues you can take with this game, but I think as a social setting, it's a really fun game, and it's something that's worth. It's Heavy Rain done right is the best way I can explain it.
Okay,
sure.
No, I mean, Heavy Rain done right sounds pretty good. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I'll give my number 3 now. And actually, like you, Derek, this is going to blow some minds because it's not a Nintendo game either. I'm going with Rocket League as my 3rd favorite game of the year.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I actually know. I unfortunately didn't play as much as I would have liked. Sorry, what were we going to say, Derek?
I didn't even realize you played that.
I know,
game.
and I actually had a blast with it. I thought it was a ton of fun. It actually reminded me of the soccer mode from Excite Bike 64 way back in the day, and I love that mode.
Yeah.
And this felt like a way more refined take on it. And I had a blast. Like, I had a really fun time with it. I just wish I'd spent even more time with it. I've just been so busy throughout the year. And also the fact I was playing on the PC and didn't have a compatible controller, whereas I would have loved to have actually played with a controller. But yeah, great game. I had a ton of fun with it. So that's my number 3.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of great things about it, and I've seen gameplay that makes it look like a ton of fun. But I have the PS4, and it was part of the PS Plus, so I actually got it for free. but I haven't played it at all yet because I'm honestly intimidated by it. Because any type of those like competitive games online, especially stuff that has voice chat, honestly intimidates me. It's like I don't want to get yelled at by people. I'm not going to be good when I first start, so I just sort of discourages me from playing it right away. But is it easy to pick up and play? Like, did you get that?
I thought it was super easy to pick up and play. Like, the controls really couldn't be simpler. It's you're driving around and you can jump like and you can do some flying, I guess, in the air. But I actually thought it was really simple. Like, it's simple but has depth. But yeah, I find it's really easy to get into. So I didn't find there to be much of a barrier to entry at all.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
All right. Well, I guess we're on to our number 2s now. So, what's your number 2, Ash?
Well, my number 2 is also not a Nintendo game. It is on Wii U, though. It's Freedom Planet.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I had, of course, I had been talking about this game a long time before the Wii U version came out, and basically been singing its praises to you guys, because I got to play the PC version earlier this year at a friend's house, and I was just blown away by it then. And, the Wii U version I know had a few bugs they had to iron out, they delayed the release a few times, but the wait was totally worth it. It is absolutely such a love letter to the 32-bit era. It plays, some people know it actually began life as a Sonic fan game. And you can definitely tell that that's kind of where its DNA came from, but it kind of became its own project. And so now we have this game that plays like a lost 32-bit platformer. Looks great, sounds great, plays kind of like a Sonic game, but it also does enough of its own thing to differentiate itself from that. And it's fantastic. The pixel art is gorgeous. The music it sounds like it should have come from like a Sega Saturn game. It's great. And the part that actually propelled it above Yoshi's Woolly World for me was the fact that both games, in my opinion, have fantastic level designs, but Freedom Planet has incredible boss fights. Maybe the best boss fights of any game I've played this year. And they're really tough and they're pattern based, but they're fair, but they're hard. And I love that. They're kind of Mega Man-esque in that way. But the game is also kind of Gunstar Heroes-like, so it's not just platforming. You're also kind of, you're dodging all sorts of bullets on the screen, and it's in that way it's kind of very Gunstar Heroes-like. So I adore that game, and I really can't recommend it highly enough.
I was actually the one that got the review code for that. I was actually planning on reviewing that game when it came out. We talked to them, got the code, and I put it on the system. But that was before, it had gotten that patch where it was fine again.
Right.
And because I played it, and after the first chapter, it froze up. So I enjoyed what I played, but because of the timing, I never got a chance to go back to it by the time it, got patched and got fixed. So it's one of those games I wanted to play. It looks awesome. I've heard nothing but good things about it. But obviously, once you get into the fall, my time is gone.
No, I totally hear you. I will say that, and people who've played the game know this, but the level 3 boss fight, like the first time I saw that and played it, it's just one of those truly, truly epic 2D platforming moments where you realize, man, everything just came together perfectly. The game's firing on all cylinders, and you just know that you're playing something that a lot of care and passion went into. And it really recalls all the reasons why Sonic 3 and Knuckles is a fantastic platformer.
That sounds awesome. I mean, I remember seeing it at a PAX Indie event, and I'm like, wait, there's a Sonic indie game now? Like, it looked,
yeah.
it looked, and I meant that as a good thing, even though that could be construed as an insult these days. But
yeah, no, I mean, it recalls all the good Sonic.
It does,
or,
it absolutely
the 2D
did.
Sonic games. And there's a ton of content, too. I mean, even though there are, quote-unquote, only 10 stages, all those stages are incredibly long, and, there are multiple routes through them, like any good 2D Sonic game. There are 3 playable characters, and each character has their own unique stage, and there's free DLC on the way.
Wow.
So there's a ton of content in this game. I think it's like $10 or $15, more than worth your money. I really, if you like Sonic 3 and Knuckles, if you like, 32-bit, 16-bit flat platformers, you have to try Freedom Planet.
Dang, it sounds, man, I'm surprised that's not your number 1 at this point.
No, it's not, but no, I really do love it. It's great.
That's awesome.
I guess it's my turn.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
My number 2 is Splatoon.
Nice.
This game, as soon as we saw it, you got the feeling that this was something special. This was something different. And as soon as I played it at E3 its first year, it's like, wow, that is something to keep an eye on. And then we finally got the game, and yeah, it really was that special. The single player was fantastic. It really trained you up for how to play the game online, gave you some really neat scenarios, and of course the final boss is one of the best out there. He just great culmination of the entire thing, and it's one of those great bosses where the stage itself is almost the boss as well. It's just integrating everything so well, and then you get to the multiplayer and just how simple it all is, but how you can just a lot of depth, and you can play how you want, whether you want to go out and take everybody out or actually ink stuff. It just hit on every cylinder, and I think the way they've supported it, of course, cannot be not mentioned. This is a game that has been supported since May.
As you know, because you've been covering it every week.
Yes. How did I end up being the one covering this game when you were the one to review it, and you were the one lauded as the great Splatoon player, Andre?
I had to end my reign while as king. I couldn't.
I guess so. But yeah, I mean, you know, not all stages are my favorites, or not all weapons work for me or whatnot, but being able to play and just have these quick matches that just sort of get you involved and more to do and see. I mean, it really kept my interest, and for a multiplayer game to do that for me is very rare, and I have to just, you know, praise Splatoon for that. It is a great new IP. I cannot wait to see how Nintendo furthers it, and hopefully it doesn't let it languish or anything like that, but I don't think it will. I think this is definitely going to be one of the new big ones for them.
Yep, I agree.
No, I totally agree. I mean, if anything, I can describe Splatoon as a total breath of fresh air from Nintendo. I mean, you know, it is really its own new thing. Nintendo has proven they still got it where, you know, creating new IPs is concerned. And it's so inventive and unique and such a great twist on the first-person shooter formula. It is not my number one game, spoiler alert, but I do love it, and it really vied for number 3 between Yoshi's Woolly World for me. It was really close.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I guess I'm up next with my number 2, and that is Super Mario Maker. I had a ton of fun. Like, it's weird, because this game is almost divided in half for me. Like, you have the creation portion where you're making levels, and you have the playing portion where you're playing other people's levels. And I actually, to my surprise, I much prefer playing or making levels than I do playing them. There's some really cool levels out there, but I've had, like, most of the fun I've had with this game has been making my own. I had so much fun, like, recreating levels of Mario 64, or trying to rework old arcade games in Super Mario Maker. I just had a blast. Like, it gives you so much, like, even though the tool set isn't massive, it's more than enough to have, like, infinite potential with what you can do. And I still have ideas I haven't had time to follow up on, so I had a blast with this game. I really hope we see even more from the Maker series in the future, whether it's Mario or something else entirely. Come on, Zelda!
2D Zelda Maker would be awesome.
God, right? Oh, man.
Yeah.
I've talked about it a bunch. I just want that to happen, please.
Oh, it'd be so cool.
Yep.
Super Mario Maker is great. I love the creation aspect of it. I wish I had more time to embrace it and really get into it, because I do enjoy creating levels. But have found, I think, same as you, Andre, that creating a good level takes a lot of time, like many, many hours, and that's just not the kind of time I have right now. And the other side of it, the course world aspect, I love that theoretically there's an endless amount of Mario courses to play whenever you want, but the sad fact is, like, 95% of the courses are trash.
Yeah.
Like, absolute trash, which really does hurt the game's fun factor for me. And that's not Nintendo's fault necessarily, and I go back every time there's a new event course, because those are awesome. But it's just like, it's hard for me to maintain my interest when so many of the playable courses are terrible.
I mean, that's just really an inherent problem almost with level creators, because you have to, I mean, you can curate the levels, but you need people to play the crappy ones to figure out what the good ones are.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is a tough problem to solve, and unfortunately not everyone is a great level designer. I mean, and to be fair, not everyone has the time that I did to invest like 12 hours into some of these levels.
That's true, too.
And I was able to do that because my job is to do that. Like, I made videos about these. So I can understand why not everyone may have the time to sink the amount of time it takes to make a good level. I will say, it gave me a really newfound appreciation for, like, Nintendo's, for the level creators within Nintendo, or really anywhere, at any company. Because it's even made me appreciate, like, just playing through other games now, the thought process that must have gone into some of those levels. Because when you make a level, I've ended up thinking about things I've never thought about before. It's, the flow of the level, like positioning a block in a different area to, either offer a hint or to give you more of a leg up on the next jump. Like, you just think about things in a way I've never thought about before, and I love that. So it just felt completely fresh to me. So
absolutely.
Yep.
I wanted to explore the level creator a lot more than I actually got to. Because my goal when I saw all this was I wanted to make Mario levels. I wanted to try to make levels that you would see in a Mario game. I wanted to challenge myself in that way. Because unfortunately, when you play levels, and I have the same problem with you guys, I've played a lot of really great creative levels, but much too often I see the crutch of let's make this as hard as possible, or let's make it an auto level, or something to that degree. Like there's always one of those two crutches, and when they don't use that crutch, or they use it in such a way that it feels unique and interesting, that's when it shines. An individual level shines to me. And it also just shows like how hard of a balance it is to strike, challenging yet fair. And unfortunately, with a lot of player-created levels, the challenge comes from, well, I didn't know that was coming. It's all just coming out of nowhere and kicking the crap out of you. And to have that gradual challenge is much more difficult.
I automatically dismiss a level if like something kills me in the first 2 seconds. I cannot stand that. It's like
same here.
There should be a period where you're safe at the start to get your bearings and figure out what's happening. But I think part of the problem too with creating levels is that you end up playing your own level so many times, or at least ideally, if you're if you kind of know what you're doing as a level creator, it becomes harder and harder to tell how hard your level actually is. Because it gets so good at your own level, you can't really decipher whether it's actually hard or whether it's actually too easy now, or if it is still hard, And I do wish the game had a way to publish levels like unlisted, kind of like on YouTube, where you can have your friends check it out first, maybe offer you feedback before you post it live for the world to see.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
That's one touching on that. That is one thing that Super Mario Maker kind of taught me very quickly, is that the kind of the mean skill level of Mario players out there is much lower than I thought it was.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So much lower than I thought it was. Like, and I definitely like my first level was much harder than I realized. Like actually even my first 2 levels were, and I recognized that, so I made my future ones easier. But even like my latest one, which is actually pretty easy, it has like a 30% clear rate or something, and I'm like, man, that really surprises me, and I hadn't even thought of that before.
I really think, like, basically the only levels above 30% from what I've seen are, like, either automatic levels or music levels, or ones that are just so stupid short or simple that there's no way to fail on them.
Well, the funny thing is, even with those ones that it seems like there's no way to fail, they're still, like, not 100% completion rate. Yeah. It's like, what are they doing?
I really think, part of it probably is coming from people playing the 100 Mario mode, and they just skip. If they fail once and see a level's too long or whatever, they just end up skipping it so they can continue to unlock the costumes.
That's true.
So I wonder if that's a factor. Anyways,
that could be.
I think that's enough about Mario Maker. So it's time for our number ones. So in this case, we're going to go around again in the same way. But before the person reveals their number one, we're actually going to guess what it is. Or the other people are going to guess what it is. Or try to guess what it is. So Ash, you are up first. And I'm going to let Derek guess first, because I actually have to think about this. I don't know what your number one could be.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time, too. Usually it's easy to just say whatever Mega Man stuff it is, and we can't say Smash Brothers this time. So it's actually a little tricky to say what your number one would
Especially
be.
because he before said we could never guess what it is. So
I mean, I could be a total shill and say Mega Man Legacy Collection, but don't worry, that's not it.
Oh, man.
I honestly am not sure. I'm trying to think of what games you actually have played this year.
Is it a game we knew you played? Like, do we know?
I don't think so, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, that's going to make it even tougher.
That's why it's going to be really hard.
Impossible.
Yeah.
I don't know. You played Fallout 4.
That's not it.
Okay, I'm going Halo 5. I know for sure that's not even right, but it's out there. So.
It's definitely not, because I don't even have an Xbox One. So, actually, Andre, I had to stay quiet because you almost stole my thunder, and you would have had I spoken up. But actually, my favorite game of the year was Rocket League.
Wow! What?
Oh, okay.
Wow, I am surprised.
Yeah, I knew you guys would never get that. But we talked about how Nintendo had kind of an uneven year, and they had some great games, but no game stuck with me and really just impressed the hell out of me more than Rocket League did. And it's a game that I find myself keep going back to it. And the feeling you get, it's just a pure rush of adrenaline when you get the ball and you get a breakaway and you are heading down the field by yourself and it's all on you. There's that pure rush of adrenaline that no other game this year has matched for me. Like, it's just and it's all on you, and when you score, you feel like a total badass, and it's awesome. And when you screw up, you feel terrible. But it's just it's such a simple, cool concept. I mean, it's literally soccer with cool, like, racing cars.
Yeah.
And it's such an easy concept, but no one ever thought of it before. And the execution is absolutely flawless. The customization is fun. The controls are spot on. The different arenas are great. The graphics are nice. That runs at a smooth 60 frames. There's fairly priced DLC. I absolutely adore Rocket League, and I really have nothing bad to say about it, and that's really why it's my game of the year.
That's awesome.
I really need to actually play this game since I do technically own it.
I wanted to speak up earlier, Derek, but I didn't want to give it away, so I will say that you don't actually have to chat with people. Like, I never use voice chat unless I'm playing with friends. And so, there's really no way for people to be dicks to you if you screw up, even if you're a beginner. So I would say just honestly, just dive right in and check it out, because I think you'll love it.
Yeah. That's the thing, when it's something gets highly competitive like that, and I see people getting competitive like that, it's just like, oh.
No, I'm the same way.
That fear of, like, I don't want to get yelled at.
Totally. I'm the same way, but that's why I like Rocket League, because you can turn voice chat off. You don't even have to voice chat if you don't want to. And it really is an easy to, pick up and play game, and the game's pretty good about matching you up with people of similar skill levels.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah, I love it.
And if you play with your friends, too, it gets even better then, so...
That's actually what I'm doing after this discussion. I'm gonna meet up with a friend online and play some Rocket League.
My question to you, Ash, is how do you have time to play Rocket League when you're so busy playing Smash Brothers Wii U still?
Well, and see, that's something I was going to talk about in our honorable mentions. But if we're talking about sheer gameplay time, I probably would have had Smash Wii U because of all the awesome DLC. That might have been my number one. But I don't personally consider it fair because it's technically a 2014 release to me. I know you said that you would have considered it fair had I made it my game of the year.
I think it's considered fair if the DLC is a key reason why you kept playing the game into 2015. Or 2015.
Well, it's a key reason, but it's not the only reason.
Right.
So, I just didn't really feel like it was fair to give 2015 game of the year to that. But based on sheer playtime, it definitely would have been number one if it was based only on that, because I do keep going back to it, and I adore it.
It is worth mentioning that it didn't win your first place slot last year either.
Well, it would have if not for Shovel Knight. But Shovel Knight came out, and it was just so damn good.
Your GOAT.
These indie games keep impressing the hell out of you.
That's true, but I will say that Smash is, of course, proven to have a lot more staying power. Like, I go back and play Shovel Knight, and Plague of Shadows is fun, but Smash I go back to several times a week. I just can't get enough of it. So, in terms of staying power, it might be number one overall. I don't know, but yeah.
All right. Well, I think you're up next, Derek. I can guess that's our turn to guess, Ash. I'm going to speak for both of us, I think, actually.
Yeah.
I'll let you speak for both of us, Ash.
All right. Well, I think it's pretty easy. I think that your game of the year, Derek, is Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Yep, not even a question.
Yeah, that was pretty damn easy.
Yeah.
I've talked about this game so many times and so often. I can't help it. It really was a shock to me. I did not initially plan on reviewing this game. I didn't think I was equipped to handle it or anything like that. But then just on a sort of a whim, I'm like, yeah, let's try to get this game out here since we have gotten it so early, and I actually feel capable. Because that was my big fear. A lot of times with Nintendo RPGs, we get them really late. and we don't have near enough time to cover them like I feel RPGs should. And with Xenoblade, I had a good 3.5 weeks, if not,
I think it was almost a month, yeah.
Yeah, close to that, to play this game. And I still didn't beat it in that time because I had everything else to do. But just, I would dedicate hours to this game, just playing it over and over. And I never got bored with it. It always found something for me to do. Always had me pushing forward to a goal. Always impressed me with its side characters and story and everything else. It just, I know it's not for everyone. But if you can get yourself into that headspace in order to get, into the idea of the world and combat of Xenoblade Chronicles X, it will addict you for so long. Like, I am still considering going back, and I haven't had time to play it in a while. I still kind of want to go back and just complete the whole thing. Get a 100% survey. I'm sitting at 65%, and I'm like at 140 hours. And I still want to keep playing that game. And, if you're talking pure playtime, Ash, you were talking about how much you played Smash. Yeah. Right there is my game. I've put more hours into Xenoblade, and it's all at the end of the year, which is incredible for me. The game is just that good, and I think anybody that has even the slightest interest in it should try to play it if they can. I cannot recommend the game enough.
So you're saying you like it?
Yeah, just
a little bit.
That's one of those games, unfortunately, due to a lack of time, I did not get a chance to play, but I have a strong feeling that if I had a chance to play it, it would have, quite possibly made my top 3, if not my top 5. So, that seems like the kind of game that I would love. I just, unfortunately, didn't get a chance to play it.
Yeah, I mean, I played a preview event, and I actually did like what I saw there, but it's not usually my type of game, and I know I don't have time to invest that much time into a game we're not actively covering. With that said, like, I thought they were doing some extremely cool things with that game, and the scale of that game, especially for a Wii U title, was immense. Like, this is a game that, I mean, if you're going to pick up one game for the Wii U, that seems to be it. It'll keep you busy for quite some time, it looks like. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
All right, well, I guess it's time for you guys to guess my number one. I think my number two might giving it away, so...
Yeah, I have a feeling.
Well, that's the thing. I'm actually drawing a blank. Oh, wait, no. I guess I would know what it is.
Yep.
The only other game it could be. Because I was like, I was positive that Super Mario Maker was going to be your number one.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was one of two possibilities for Andre's number one, and I think I know what it is. But Derek, you should speak for it since I spoke for Andre and I.
Yeah, I think we're probably suspecting it is Splatoon.
That's why I was so quiet during yours. I didn't blow my entire load on the second place winner. No, Splatoon, like, I probably put almost as many hours in Splatoon as you did Xenoblade Chronicles X. Like,
the shame of it all is that you didn't get to keep those hours.
I know. There were a lot of them were on the media copy, so I lost a lot of them. I mean, not that it really mattered.
True.
But I lost all the gear I earned. But no, I loved Splatoon. I thought this is a fantastic game. It was just, I mean, I'm just repeating what you guys basically said. It was just such a breath of fresh air, and it felt so different and so unique. Like, it didn't matter to me that there were only 5 maps in the game. Every time I played on them, it felt completely different and new to me each time. I put you know, almost 100 hours probably into collectively those maps, and I still wasn't bored of them. I thought they were great. The level design was fantastic, and just how great the mechanics felt, whether in single player or multiplayer, it didn't matter. I had a blast. And of course, as you touched on, Derek, I think it was you, Derek, the final boss was one of the best Nintendo's ever made, I think. I just loved everything about it. And the game, just even outside the gameplay, it's such a great new energy to it. Like, it really feels, I mean, a little bit like, as many people have commented on, Sega in the 90s, right? It's got like that little
really
energy,
does.
or early Dreamcast era even. So,
or just 90s in general. Like, it is totally a 90s game in the almost 2010, you know, late 2010s.
It really is, and I really can't stress enough just how brilliant those mechanics are. Like turning from a kid into a squid, and like spraying ink as you know, to create a means of locomotion for yourself. Like, who would have thought of that idea? Like, I still don't know how they thought of that. I mean, they didn't even explain how they came up with it. I still don't think it makes sense. Like, I can't even fathom how they came to this realization that this would actually be a fun way of playing. And yeah, I just can't wait to see what more this series holds in store. And the fact that they've still supported this game, again, as we touch on in our, or will touch on in our yearly wrap-up, like how they kept supporting the game throughout the year and still supporting it is fantastic.
You know, it's really annoying because hearing you talk about it like this, because you have no idea how much I went back and forth between Splatoon and Yoshi's Woolly World for my number 3. I mean, they're so close to me that they're basically almost the same. And all the reasons you just listed make me want to like say, oh well, Splatoon might be my third favorite, but I mean, it really is that good. Exactly. I mean, it really is that good.
Yeah.
And like you said, the final boss fight is one of the best final boss fights in recent memory. You know, the last several years for sure. And I mean, it really is that good. And I had a hard time not leaving it out of my top 3. I love it that much.
Yep. Just such a great game. So
I don't really have much more to add since I already...
Yeah, you already talked about, exactly. I mean, you kind of took all the wind down my sails there, Derek, so thanks.
Yeah, sorry.
I do find it interesting that we all have our own completely different, like, time sync games. Like, you have Splatoon, I have Smash, and then Derek, you have Xenoblade, and there really isn't much crossover. Like,
No.
Andre, you barely touch Smash now. I don't really touch Splatoon as much because of Smash. And Derek, you've been playing Xenoblade, so you don't really play either one.
Well, except I play Splatoon when I can, when I have to do all the updates and whatnot. But that's
true.
Actually, about it.
Yeah.
You know, that's sort of why it's a good idea to just do our individual ones, because these are our top 3, but it's also the top 3 of everything we've played. And we haven't played The Witcher, we haven't played Fallout 4, or the big one, in my opinion, that we've missed out on and none of us have played yet, Undertale, because that's what everybody. Because I get questioned constantly if I've played Undertale yet.
I really want to play it. There's also Metal Gear Solid 5, which I played a bit of, but I haven't. Yeah, I didn't get to play it for a full review or full impressions.
Yeah, I guess we should probably give some of our runners up, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, sure, I'll start off. I mean, Mario Party 10 got so close to breaking into my top 3. I mean, that game is just amazing in every way. Like, I especially love how you can use the amiibo to roll dice. Oh, man, it's so good.
See, I really thought Ultra Smash was going to get into your top 3. Because that game is just stuffed with content.
There was so much competition for my top 3. Amiibo Festival? Man. It was...
Well, see, I thought Amiibo Festival was going to be all of our number 1 favorites.
It should be everyone's number 1. I mean, Amiibo Festival arguably transcends numbers. Giving it a number is an insult to that game. No, actually, legitimately, the game that I actually had as my number 3 before realizing I had a much better game, or a game I preferred better this year, being Rocket League, my previous number 3 that I was going to go with was Majora's Mask 3D. Now, the weird thing is, like, I love Majora's Mask on 64. That's one of my favorite games of all time. And while I like the 3DS one, I know some people prefer it, it actually left me... I didn't think it was quite as good as the original. And for that reason... And plus, replaying it again, too, of course, isn't as exciting as it was the first time. But if I were to replay it again, I think I'd prefer the 64 one. So that's why it was my number 3 and actually got knocked out in favor of Rocket League. So
you're such a Majora's Mask hipster, Andre. God.
Yep.
I liked it back when it was good on the N64.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because one of the games I was split on to put in as my number 3 was Majora's Mask 3D. And that's the first time I'd ever played Majora's Mask, and it quickly became one of my favorites. I loved all the additions I heard for that game, where it made it much easier for me, I think, in order to just dive into that game and at least have a basic idea. Because I tried Majora's Mask back on the N64, borrowed it from a friend, and I got so stressed out from that move
and
not knowing what to do,
right.
and just losing my mind. And I mean, I still felt that stress at times with 3D, but I had a much better idea of what I was getting into, and I had some guidance, and that made me feel a little bit better. And I think that's also why you prefer N64 more.
I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, it just depends on how you look at it. I think the stress is what made that game. And the fact that the world is ending should be stressful. And that's why I adored it, because it felt like there actually were penalties, or there was a penalty for failing, whereas in the 3DS one, you have multiple cop-outs. Or, you can basically just restart and try again with very little... Basically, it doesn't punish you nearly as readily as as the original did. And I think that was key to the original experience. But I know a lot of people disagree with me. A lot of people couldn't get past that frustration or the redoing, or being forced to redo things. I respect that, but I also think it neutered the game. So, and I should say that is a bit of hyperbole on my part. I still think it's a really good game. I still liked it. I just think the original game was better. So,
I think there's enough. Like, if you like the original, the original still stands out in its own unique way, and I think 3D makes it more of an entry point, where I am actually interested in trying out the N64 version again to see the differences and see, because everybody's always talking about how they neutered the swimming more than anything else.
Oh, that was a change that bummed me out. The swimming was so fun in the original game, and I still don't know why they changed it. I mean, I think maybe it might be a little bit easier, like in tight corridors, but it's just not fun anymore. It used to be fun. Now it's just like, okay, I'm swimming as a Zora.
About Majora's Mask 3D, I enjoyed it a lot, and I really appreciated just how fantastic the graphics were. Like, seeing Termina with this whole new color palette that still managed to make the whole place look dark, but still more colorful and more kind of a wider range of color at the same time, I thought was great.
I agree with that. It did look really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason for me that it didn't stand out to me as much was because Majora's Mask, I always liked it, but it was never one of, like, my absolute favorite Zelda games like it was for some other people. It was always enjoyable to me, but it never was one of that top Zelda game like it is for so many people. And Majora's Mask 3D didn't change that for me. But what's funny is that another game that I would say made my top 10 that really surprised me is the other Zelda game that came out this year, which was Triforce Heroes.
Oh, wow.
And I went into that game expecting not to care about it. Like, I almost didn't even want to play it when it came out. I just didn't care about it. Wasn't really feeling the vibe, the multiplayer thing. And then we, of course, you and all three of us put many, many hours into it to record all those videos. And I really kind of developed an appreciation for just how smartly designed the levels are for multiple players, and just, all the thoughtfulness that went into the cooperative element of that game.
I mean, that's true. A lot of thought definitely went into it. I can't undermine that. It's just that for me, that game, like, none of the mechanics really hooked me. I'm still not a fan of the totem mechanic. I actively hate it whenever we had to totem up. So yeah, I mean, the game, like, I had pockets of enjoyment when we were playing it, But if we didn't have to do it for videos or for Derek's review, of course, I would have never played that game again. So
Right.
I love the base game of Triforce Heroes, like just the regular quest and working with friends that way. The challenges stressed me out. There would be moments where you guys would be like playing with me and we'd be talking on Skype and you were talking about how stressed and unhinged I was because these just got so ridiculously hard and I just wanted to get through all these challenges. And yeah, it adds a lot to the gameplay, but when you're doing them in a row like that, oh boy, does it kill some of the enjoyment of that game. And I think that's...
Totally agree.
Like it's good. I really enjoy Triforce Heroes. I stand by my review. But doing that many challenges in a row that quickly...
Yeah.
I needed a break.
Well, especially because the challenges are basically optional. You can get a full experience by playing the game early without even delving into the challenges. Although I actually found some of the challenges more interesting than the base game.
I remember you saying
in
that
some
before
cases,
too.
Yeah, like I like the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles like missions where you're carrying the orb around.
Yeah, I did like that the game had teeth. Like especially for a Zelda game, it was actually incredibly difficult, and that's not something that you expect from modern Nintendo, especially in terms of Zelda games. I mean, Skyward Sword ended up being pretty easy. But most mainline Zelda games are pretty easy, and not that Triforce Heroes is a mainline Zelda game, but I just wasn't expecting it to be as hard as it was.
It's definitely tough. I mean, without question. But I wonder how much of that is just because of it being a co-op game. Well, I guess we have some comparisons to Four Swords before. Were those?
Well, yeah.
I don't remember. Were those tough too by Zelda standards?
There was nothing in there that was inherently tough. Maybe a few things that was a little tricky to figure out. But I think Triforce Heroes has a beat on pure toughness and a better arc of difficulty. The thing that still stands out to me the most about in difficulty of as
that
far
stupid
as bosses,
bird.
That bird.
Yeah.
Oh my god, we spent so long trying over and over and over to try to figure that thing out and get the placement. And oh my god, I have never been so frustrated at a boss.
But we by the end, like during those challenges, we had it down pat though. It took some time, but once we mastered it, that bird didn't stand a chance anymore. So.
Yeah, we were on.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I did like is that there was an appreciable, you could notice how much better at the game you were getting as you played it more. Like it's one of those games where you can easily see just how far you've come from where you were when you started.
Yeah, that's certainly true. Well, actually, speaking of 3D games, I'm a little surprised that the original or that Xenoblade 3D was on your list at all, Ash.
I mean, I think it's because, like I said in my review, it's a great game, and it's still, a great game on 3DS, just like it was on Wii, but the Wii version is the superior version. Hands down, there's really no contest. If you're going to play Xenoblade Chronicles and you have access to both systems, play the Wii version. Unless you're always on the go, then maybe get the 3DS version. But it just really doesn't stand up to the Wii version if you can play both. And that's why, but it's still a great game.
So it's like Majora's Mask 3D then, in that sense, for me at least.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's exactly. I mean, I think most people would look at both versions and be like, well, the Wii version's clearly superior, even though it is impressive that they were able to get that massive game in a 3DS cart at all.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of games that I didn't expect to actually really enjoy, like this is a genre that you're typically the lover of, Ash, and that was Persona 4 Dancing All Night.
Oh yeah,
I loved that game. The story bits could go on maybe a little too long, but that's just the way it goes sometimes with Persona. But the music, the dancing, the mechanics, like I have never been so addicted to a rhythm game like I was with Dancing All Night, and I'd be up for hours just trying to master these songs and get them down and just be so addicted. And the soundtrack is still fantastic. A little smaller compared to other dancing games, but I think hits all those major songs that Persona 4 is known for and gets them in different ways. And I don't think I've even beaten Persona 4 yet before. I've only gotten about halfway through the game. So to have that much an effect on me when I don't have all of the background that a Persona 4 fan usually has, I don't know, it just stuck out to me, and I was, again, really tempted to put it in that number 3 spot just because it surprised me that much.
That is absolutely a game I want to play so much. It's one of those games I just didn't have time to get to, but absolutely plan to pick up, because it's just a game I was looking forward to a lot ever since E3. But actually, on that note, another top 10 game for me, easily, was Hatsune Miku Project Mirai Deluxe, which, is another rhythm game, and, I, of course, really liked it in my review, and it really was just such a fun, replayable game. It's got, 50 songs, there's, a huge track list. I mean, you definitely have to be down with what the concept of what Miku is to enjoy it. I mean, if you hate, anime games, or if you ever used the term weeaboo in a derogatory sense, you'll hate that game. But if you're down with it, it's so fun, and the charts are fun, the songs are super catchy. That's definitely has been one of my most played 3DS games of the year.
Well, Derek, I think there's one more game in here that I'm actually really surprised didn't end up on your list, or maybe I don't know, maybe got close. But it was Codename Steams. I remember you loving that game.
That's true.
That one was actually difficult for me. I think the reason I decided not to include it, because as much as I love that game and I thought it was really fun, come the end of the year when it was time to make these lists, I forgot about it. I honestly did. And I felt so bad that happened because it was so great, but I think it's because it did not stay in the public conscious that much. When I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great game. I really like that one. And I still enjoy its campaign. I think it has a lot of fun moments. I think the gameplay is great. And it's a shame that it didn't do better. But because of that, I also just kind of forgot about it, which is a real shame, honestly.
That is too bad, because you were raving about that game when it came out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I still do. I still think if you're into strategy games and have any interest in it, try it out. But it didn't make my top 3 because that's a bad sign for a game when I forget about it, even though I really like it.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't seem to make much of a blip at all. Like, I think Nintendo drew attention to it briefly again when they patched it to fix the load times or the movement times, but beyond that, I don't think many people remember much about it. So I don't think many people played, I should say. So.
Yeah. Well, for better and worse, I think recently Amazon discounted to like $9 or $8, so that's bad for the game, but good for people who have any interest in it and wanted to pick it up at a huge discount.
And rare for a Nintendo game. They usually don't go down that
That's
far.
True.
Exactly.
So it's definitely worth getting at $10 like you. That's money well spent, in my opinion. But yeah, the game actually I was like torn on, and actually it killed me that I couldn't put it on my list simply because I haven't played it enough. Dragon Quest Heroes. The game looked gorgeous, and it looks like it's basically Hyrule Warriors except for with Dragon Quest characters, and done better and changed in such a way that it fits Dragon Quest better. And I'm not even like I haven't played all the Dragon Quest games. I don't have a huge backstory with this, but the game was so beautiful, and I want to get into this world, and it looks like such a great entry point, and the combat looked great. I was so excited for that game. And then Square blocked me from streaming it into really getting my teeth into it. And I because I couldn't do anything for it for work, I didn't have time to play it.
Yeah, I mean, we should specify not just us. They had weird restrictions on anyone streaming that game.
Yeah,
there were some rights issues, apparently.
Yeah, something was going on that we just couldn't show it. As much as I wanted to champion that game because I wanted to make sure that more Dragon Quest games came to the United States. Fortunately, that is happening with 7 and 8. So I'm very happy about that, and I will still continue to encourage people to support this series because it is a great sense of classic RPGs. If you want turn-based combat, like people complaining about that being gone from Final Fantasy VII, the remake, Dragon Quest still has it, and you'll get a very classic RPG in that sense. And Dragon Quest Heroes, I think, does what Hyrule Warriors does just as well, maybe better. I don't know. I put in an hour and a half, and even just in that bit of time, I really liked what I had to play. I want to get back to it and play it even more, but I wanted to bring special mention to it because I couldn't justify putting it on my top 3. But I did want to bring special mention to it.
Speaking of games that I wanted to bring special mention to that I'm really happy was brought to the US at all, Fatal Frame Maiden of Black Water. I couldn't put it in my top 3 or even my top 5, but it really stood out to me as a memorable experience this year. I didn't know what to expect from it because I'd only played the first Fatal Frame, and then I'd skipped the others, and I just didn't know what to expect, and I was, not sure. And then I just absolutely became just enraptured, just like consumed by it. The story is really compelling.
Were you possessed by it?
There you go. I was possessed by it. No, but the story was surprisingly compelling, and even if the gameplay was a little clunky in terms of the controls, using the gamepad as the camera obscura was so cool because you actually got to turn the gamepad in real time as if you were turning the viewfinder in the game. So. Yeah, you know what? It's a rare game that really takes advantage of the Wii U's unique capabilities in a good way, and a memorable way, and something that doesn't just come off as gimmicky. So that probably made my top 10, honestly. And I really, if you have any interest in a horror game, it's kind of a Japanese horror game. It's kind of off the beaten path. absolutely go check it out, because you can play the first 2 chapters for free anyway, so why not?
That's true.
And then I guess just a couple other things, really quick mentions. Axiom Verge, a really good Metroid-style platformer for the PS4. Love that game. And then, of course, I have to name drop Mega Man Legacy Collection, because I did review it earlier. I really liked it, of course. And it really is one of the best ways to play Mega Man 1 through 6. They've never looked better, and you get all this crazy awesome bonus content. So that's really been translated into English for the first time. So those are 2 other memorable games I played this year.
All right, well, I think that wraps up for us here. So there were some pretty good games this year, some quite good games, in fact. And sounds like I need to go out and play some of your guys' choices. So hopefully I'll find time over the holidays. I won't, but I wish I could.
It's not gonna happen.
All right, well, thanks for watching, guys. If you liked our discussion, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. You can find links to them in the description below. It's a good way to keep up to date on everything we post. And of course, keep an eye on GameXplain.com for lots more on gaming in general, including our look at Nintendo's year in review for 2015. That'll be going up very soon, as well as looking ahead to 2016 to see what Nintendo has coming down the pike. So, thanks for watching, guys, and bye.